Massachusetts, go get them. This will shake them up. So what I'm trying to say is that this market failure argument is highly problematic, that any economist who swallows this stuff is having a problem. There are other reasons why economists accept market failure and don't embrace anarchism as they should. Look, if you're going to have, let me read you another quote from my buddy Hans Hoppe. Let us begin with the definition of a state. What must an agent be able to do to qualify as a state? This agent must be able to insist that all conflicts among the inhabitants of a given territory be brought to him for ultimate decision-making or be subject to his final review. In particular, this agent must be able to insist that all conflicts involving himself be adjudicated by him or his agent. And implied in the power to exclude all others from acting as an ultimate judge, the second defining characteristic of a state is the agent's power to tax. Unilaterally determine the price that the justice seekers must pay for his monopoly services. Based on this definition of a state, it's easy to understand why a desire to have a state might exist. For whoever is a monopolist or of final arbitration within a given territory can make the laws. And he who can legislate can also tax. Surely this is an enviable position. More difficult is it to understand how anyone can get away with controlling a state. Why would other people put up with such an institution? Why would they put up with such an institution? And here we have to bring in libertarian ruling class theory. Now remember, what a state is a armed group of thugs, criminals. Now, if the state comprises the richest 95% of the population and all they do is prey on the poorest 5% of the population, it's not a viable operation. You can't get blood out of a stone. I mean, the poorest 5% of the people don't have that much. And if you split it among the richest 95, you're not going to get anywhere. So to have a real good state, you have to have the richest 5 or 10% of the people band together and exploit the other 90%. That way, the boodle is good. You get a lot of money out of it. But there's a problem. If the lowest income 90% of the people catch on, they'll rebel. They'll say, you know, why should we allow you to have this state privilege? So what you have to do is suborn the intellectuals. Now, look, in a free society, how much demand would there be for people to teach poetry or to teach economics? Not as much as there is now, especially in economics, the field about which I know most. More than half the economists are teaching in public schools or in places like, or employed by the Fed or in Washington, D.C., IRS, places like that. Do you know how many jobs there'd be for economists if it weren't for the state? Many, many fewer. So there's a bias in the economics profession, and the economics profession, by the way, of all the disciplines in the university is the most free enterprise. But even among economists, they know which side of the bread the butter is. They know that if it weren't for the state, there would be less for them to do. I once told this joke, two series of jokes, to a group of economists and lawyers who were interested in antitrust and made a lot of money from antitrust. And the first joke, I got a lot of laughter. The second joke was dead silence. The first joke was there were 3 Soviet prisoners in the Gulag, and as prisoners do, they compared notes. And the first guy said, well, I came to work early, and they accused me of brown-nosing, and they threw me in jail. The other guy said, well, I came in late to work, and they accused me of cheating the state out of my labor services, and they threw me in the Gulag. The third guy said, I came to work every day exactly on time, and they accused me of owning a Western wristwatch. This is the one where I got a lot of laughter. This is a hard crowd here. The second joke, dead silence. The second joke was there were 3 U.S. prisoners in jail, and as usual, they were comparing notes too, and they were all in jail on antitrust crimes. And the first guy said, well, I charged more than everyone else, and they accused me of profiteering. The second guy said, I charged less than everyone else, and they accused me of cutthroat competition and predatory pricing. The third guy said, I charged the exact same amount as everyone else, and they accused me of collusion and cartelization. Dead silence, just like here. They realize what's going on. So the point is, when you bring up the case for anarchism among the cognoscenti, among the intellectuals, you're bringing it up to a group of people who are not unbiased, who get a great benefit from the apparatus of the state. Let me now deal with a few more criticisms of my modest proposals here. One objection is government is not a coercive monopoly. The answer to that is try not paying your taxes, see what happens to you. Hobbes says government is necessary for cooperation. But how do you get a government started? You have to have cooperation before the government. So if government is necessary for cooperation in the first place, you can't ever have a government start. Look, take this externalities, positive externalities argument. Why should I start a government? There'll be spillover benefits. There'll be free riders. Why should you start a government? There'll be free riders. I'll benefit, supposing that government is good. This argument shows that you can't have government. But what we really need is a government to set up a government. But where do you get the first government? See the intellectual incoherence here? This government is dead from the neck up, intellectually, in addition to being a mass murderer. The next one is Locke had three criticisms. First, that there wouldn't be a general body of law known to everyone without government. This is just an example of legal positivism. But there would be. Certainly, the libertarian code would be a legitimate legal code. Now, most people, if you ask them, is the right way to get the shirt off of Devin by beating him up or threatening him or by enticing him? You know, the difference between rape and seduction? Most people don't rape. They try to seduce. Economically seduce is pay for it. If you ask most people what's the right way to deal with each other, voluntarily or coercively, they'll all say voluntarily, except when they get in the ballot box. Then they vote for Obama because he's going to change, he's going to take money from these guys and give it to those guys, and McCain is going to bomb the smithereens out of everyone. What's his name? Wrote a very interesting book, Brian Kaplan, The Irrational Voter. Good book, except for 3 pages there where he goes a little berserk, but another issue. Another objection is people can't be trusted to be judges in their own case. That's true, but that applies to the government, not to the market. In the market, you're not the judge of your own case. Ayn Rand's objection is that the defense agencies will fight. Well, I already went over that one. Another Randian says that there'll be no final arbiter of disputes, but there will be the Levendus court in the case that I was dealing with Barnett and D'Amico. Property law cannot emerge from the market is another objection. And there's some truth in that. The idea is before you're going to have a market, before you can buy and sell things, you have to have law. But the way this conceives of it is that first we set up law, and then we start buying and selling and producing. But that's crazy. They both go together. Another one is that the rich will rule if we had free market anarchism because Bill Gates now commits a crime and he's going to start bribing some judge. You don't think that happens now?
I do.
I'm shocked. You're so cynical, John. Certainly it happens now. The question is not would it happen under free enterprise, but where is it more or less likely to happen? And the answer is that any court that had a reputation of favoring the rich, nobody would go there. It couldn't exist, whereas now you have to go to the monopoly court. Look, we're all taught with our mother's milk in economics that monopoly is no good. Well, government is just a monopoly of law. Why should law be, or crime prevention be any different? Okay, one last one from Robert Nozick, that the defense agencies will become a de facto government. They'll band together in cartels. Well, if they did, why do we still have anarchy between countries? The relationship of Peru and Canada is one of anarchy. Namely, there's no world government above them. The relationship of Portugal and Bolivia is one of anarchy. Namely, there's no world government above them. If the 250 roughly number of countries in the world have